Welcome to the heritage of our fathers. Today we will be talking about the Benin and Okere, the people and their legacy. In the days when the Benin Kingdom ruled with glory and might, under the reign of Oba Ozolua, the land of Benin was a shining jewel of power and art, its walls rising red and proud against the African sun. In the year 1497, deep within the royal palace of Benin, a great council gathered. The Oba sat upon his coral throne, his eyes burning like fire beneath his beaded crown. Before him knelt one of his fiercest and most loyal generals, a man known across the land for his courage and honor, General Ekpenede. The air was heavy with the scent of incense and the echo of royal drums. The Oba's voice rose, deep and commanding. "General Ekpenede," he said, "Prince Jinua, my own blood, has fled Benin to found a kingdom of his own. He defies my authority, and in his rebellion lies a challenge to the throne. You will take your warriors and pursue him. Bring him back to Benin, alive or dead." Ekpenede bowed his head low, his coral beads clinking softly.
"It will be done, my Oba."
"Oba Gator Kapi," he answered. "May the ancestors guide my path, and may Benin's honor never fall." The Oba lifted his staff of authority and blessed him. "Go, son of Benin, let the gods of war favor your journey." That very dawn, the drums of Benin thundered across the kingdom as the army assembled. Hundreds of warriors, their bodies painted in red and white, their spears glinting under the rising sun, marched out from the palace gates. They wore the pride of Benin, red wrappers tied around their waists, coral beads on their necks and wrists, and the determination of warriors who carried the Oba's will. Villagers lined the roads, cheering and chanting, "Benin Oba, Benin Nagbon," as the warriors marched westward into the forests, following the trail of Prince Jinua. Their journey was long and grueling. For weeks they moved through thick forests, swamps, and open plains. They slept under the stars, drank from muddy rivers, and ate what the wilds offered. General Ekpenede led with unmatched discipline. He was a man of few words, but his presence inspired strength. His soldiers followed him with unshaken loyalty. They crossed lands where no Benin soldier had ever set foot before, hearing tales of Jinua's movement through distant villages. But as the days turned into weeks, the trail grew faint, the forest grew thicker, and hunger began to gnaw at their spirits. One fateful evening, after days of marching, the army arrived at a vast body of water, the Wari River. Its waves thundered and crashed, swollen from heavy rains. The men stared at it in awe and despair. Across that river, Prince Jinua had already crossed, beyond their reach. Ekpenede stood at the bank, his heart heavy. The river stretched wide like a wall of the gods themselves, defying any attempt to cross. "The gods are speaking," one soldier said softly. "Perhaps we are not meant to go further." Another fell to his knees, weary from battle and sickness. General Ekpenede removed his helmet and let the rain fall upon his face. He could feel the voice of destiny whispering through the roar of the river. His mission had reached its end. Slowly, he planted his bronze-tipped spear into the wet earth and said, "Our journey ends here. The gods have closed the path before us. We are the children of Benin, and where we stand, our spirit shall remain." The men lowered their heads in silence. Some wept for their failure to complete the mission, others in relief that their long suffering was finally over. That night, the soldiers built fires by the riverside. The smell of smoke and rain filled the air. They sat in circles, cooking what little food they had left. The forest hummed with night sounds. General Ekpenede sat alone, staring into the flames, his thoughts heavy with the memory of home, the palace, the Obas, and the people he might never see again. Yet somewhere deep within, he felt peace. Days passed. The army, too weak to return to Benin, decided to remain by the river. They began to build shelters, using bamboo and palm leaves. They hunted, fished, and began to trade with the local people they met in the area. Slowly, life began again. The settlement started small, only a handful of surviving warriors and a few locals who joined them. One morning, as the men gathered under the shade of a tree, a young soldier said, "My general, our numbers are few. We are but a shadow of what we once were." Ekpenede looked around at his men, tired, yes, but alive. He nodded thoughtfully and said, "Then we shall call this place Okere, which in the Itsekiri tongue means it is small. We are few, but from small beginnings, greatness shall rise." The men repeated the name softly, Okere. Ekpenede walked to the center of the camp and held his staff firmly in his hand. He raised it toward the heavens and drove it into the soil. The term, "Let this mark our home," he declared. "As long as the spirit of Benin breathes, this place shall stand." The men cheered faintly, and that night they celebrated. They sang old Benin war songs and danced around the fire, their shadows flickering against the dark trees. As seasons changed, Okere grew. The soldiers took wives from nearby communities, their children learning both the tongue of Benin and that of the Itsekiri. Trade flourished along the river. The people fished, farmed, and traded palm oil, yams, and cloth. In time, Ekpenede's planted staff took root and began to grow, a small green shoot that turned into a sapling, and in the years to come, into a mighty tree. That tree became the heart of the settlement, standing in what would later become the famous Okere market. Under its shade, people gathered, sold their goods, and told stories of how their ancestors, weary from battle, founded their home by the will of the gods. Generations passed, and kingdoms rose and fell, but the tree remained, its roots deep in the soil of history. The descendants of Ekpenede's soldiers became the people of Okere, an Itsekiri community with proud Benin roots. They remembered through songs and stories that they came from warriors, from men who crossed lands and faced the fury of rivers, and who, in their exhaustion, built a new world. Today, centuries later, the Okere market in Wari is alive with trade and laughter. The mighty tree still stands, its branches stretching wide as if embracing the generations it has watched grow. Beneath it, traders spread their mats, children play, and the sounds of life continue. Few stop to wonder how that ancient tree came to be, or how it once marked the resting place of Benin's finest warriors. But the land remembers, the river remembers, the spirits of those who came from Benin remember. And though the story has passed through many lips and many generations, one truth remains eternal, that Okere, small as it began, was born from courage, endurance, and destiny. It was born from the will of a general who turned defeat into rebirth. It was born from the legacy of Benin that refused to die. So when you walk through Okere today, and the breeze stirs the leaves of that ancient tree, listen closely. You might just hear the faint echoes of drums, the whispers of warriors, and the voice of General Ekpenede declaring to his men, "Here we stand. Here we begin anew from the heart of Benin to the banks of Wari." A story was written not on paper, but in blood, courage, and the soil of history. And it is that story, the founding of Okere, that reminds us all that even the smallest beginnings can grow into legacies that never die. Long live the king. With this, we have come to the end of today's story. Thank for watching. God bless. Peace.